Okay, well, Amber and I are sitting here with Mike McDonald from BibleProject, and we are so excited to have him today. We felt like we just have never really shared the story of OneStory and how this all got started. And we have people asking, how did you get into this? And how did you and Amber meet? And how did you connect with BibleProject? And what's learn.bible? And so we thought it would be cool to just get you on here. And the story really starts with you. So why don't you introduce yourself to everyone and tell us a little bit about what you do at BibleProject? You are the Chief Strategic Relationships Officer.
That's
Did I
a
get
mouthful.
that right?
Yeah, you got that right. But I'm Mike. How about that? We'll go with
Yes,
Mike.
that's how we know you. Is just Mike.
Yeah,
I'll read your bio and then you can just add whatever you'd like to tell everybody about what you do there.
sure.
So Mike works on cultivating awareness. I love the word cultivating, and creating strategic relationships with churches, organizations, and other nonprofits that are looking to use Bible Project videos in their context. He also leads the global focus team, which is working on localizing the videos into different languages, which is super cool. And he previously spent 11 years, probably 11 years leading a global development organization, as well as serving on several boards for international organizations with compassion and justice missions. And in a previous life, this is a fun fact, you owned and operated restaurants in Canada, which is kind of fun. You're a foodie.
Yep, totally.
So yeah, what else
Well,
would you
gosh,
add to?
yeah, that's super cool. I'm going to take you on the road with me. Yeah. So one kind of fun fact actually with that, I did have a couple of years where I was getting to kind of build out and flesh out kind of what the global landscape looked like for Bible Project. Since then, I've actually handed that off in the new year to an amazing gal that we hired and trained over the last few years to take that on, named Allison. So she's now kind of getting to lead the charge on all those languages. But in that time, we did get to grow it to be about 56 languages that we fully localize our content in, meaning we don't just do dubbing over or just like a word for translation. We actually localize the content. We hire theologians in each of those contexts to actually rewrite the scripts where it needs to make sense from a contextual standpoint in that place. We redo the art that needs to be redone in those contexts. I mean, for the overview videos, pretty much everything's redone because it's so much text on screen and all of that gets redone. And then you can imagine in languages like Arabic, we actually have to flip it and go, instead of from left to right, we're going from right to left. So everything pretty much has to get done. That's why we say we localize it, because we truly do take it through a process. And we hire local indigenous leaders and artists and illustrators and people in those contexts to do the work too. And so it really is made for and by those contexts for that context, which is a unique thing, I think, when it comes to this kind of space for sure. So
the cultural apologist in me so appreciates that approach of really immersing yourself in the culture that you're trying to serve and not just barreling in with your own version of things. I just think that is so compassionate and thoughtful of just because it's time consuming. That I can't imagine how much time it takes to take that level of care and intention to do that.
I mean, it would be easier just to kind of throw it into the
Yeah.
old and have it translate but we do want this stuff to really have the same kind of impact that it's having in English for people like myself when I watch the videos and engage with it in that way. And we're not ignorant to the fact that we're in Portland, Oregon, in the western part of the United States, making content and art and everything else in that context. And so when we go into some of the other places, we really want to make sure that we're not even leading that charge. We're actually doing a lot of listening in those instances. We hire local theologians that are like, okay, here's why I think we need to change this and do this. And it's a constant conversation with Tim and the scholar team. And I mean, it's this whole dance to make sure that the same meaning is wanting to be shared, but it might be shared in a bit of a different way. Stories that we're telling here in the US are not necessarily going to translate in Tunisia, or wherever else that we're in. So
yeah. So your passion for understanding context and how Bible Project resources translate into various contexts is kind of the bridge to how we got here, because we have our own context. So we have the homeschooling context, and tell us a little bit about how this started with you and what you were thinking as far as maybe what it would look like to get Bible Project resources into a homeschooling context. Not
Yeah.
nearly as glamorous as translating it into all of these beautiful
I
languages,
don't know. I
but
think it's just as glamorous. I mean, it's all localization, and that's the beautiful thing. It's not even like it doesn't have to be a language. It can be a
right.
context change that you want
Yeah.
to figure out. And so, listen, I was not homeschooled. I've never experienced homeschool. I'm not a homeschool parent. And so I walked into this very ignorant, although hearing when I interact with individuals, churches, nonprofits from around the world, the homeschool kind of community kept bubbling up in a number of different ways, meaning, gosh, I wish that there was courses that, we could have our kids go through at home. And even during COVID, obviously that elevated even higher because everybody practically was homeschooling, whether or not they got a curriculum from their public schools. Like everyone became a homeschool parent real fast. And so, yeah, after just hearing, for me, it's just, I ask a lot of questions, what strategic relationships looks like to me is just going, what are your pain points? What do you wish there was more of? Like, I want to understand the landscape. And so because children's type stuff and homeschool stuff kept bubbling up, I started asking the question, what would it look like, for us to do that? Now, the reality is that none of us are homeschool experts, at Bible Project, although we do have some homeschool parents and folks that are doing that. I just began the kind of lookout to go, who's doing this? Who's people in the space? And I worked in kind of that past, what you were mentioning on the global front and kind of injustice and compassion work. I worked really closely with the guy, Bob Goff, where we were traveling around doing a ton of stuff in Uganda and Afghanistan and Somalia. And I got to meet somebody he was working with named Stephanie over the years, who's a
Hi,
mutual
Steph.
friend. And, yeah, shout out to Steph. And Stephanie and I became friends, gosh, it's probably 7 or 8 years ago. And when I was sharing with them a little bit about kind of like what I'm working on and what I'm thinking about, she was just so quick to go, oh my gosh, you need to meet Nicole. She would be such a great, person on this space to ask questions and see where it may go. And so that's how we got connected, was through
Yeah.
our mutual friend, Steph.
Yeah. She's a connector. That's what
She
she does.
is. She's so great.
So yeah, so that's where I came in. So you and I got on the phone, and all of that question asking and interest in our context, I quickly experienced from you. You just really respected the fact that we were the ones in the context and kind of knew our world and wanted to know more. So we even did some focus groups with some homeschool moms and asked them questions. And that was really fun for me, even to hear what are moms looking for, and dads. We have homeschooling dads. And they just named some really important things, not dumbing it down, I think was a repeated thing that homeschooling parents wanted. And just to really embrace the complexity and intricacy of the Bible in a way that I think Bible Project captures so beautifully. The imagination of it, the awe and wonder of it. So we just got really excited about how can we take what Bible Project is already really good at with that and serve our homeschool community. I'm saying our, but Amber was not a part of this just yet. So this is where Amber comes in, because I got off the phone with you and I went, oh, cool. Now what do I do? I have to write a curriculum. And I quickly realized collaboration is just so beautiful and the way to go. And so I started looking for a partner. And it was similar in the way that the connection with Stephanie landed us in a relationship. It was a mutual friend that Amber and I had that connected me to Amber. And I knew a little bit about her, but we got on the phone, and within minutes, I just knew she was my person. So Amber, why don't you tell a little bit about how you came to be a part of this?
Well, and this is where we had some major divine intervention, because I had been working for a Bible college for 15 years and doing my own theological study and realizing these things that I'm wanting to teach my kids, I can't find them in the kids' resources. that I'm buying. I was looking for them and I couldn't find it in the language that I wanted it in, with the nuances that I wanted. So I started writing things for my own kids. And this included some homeschool work where I'm drawing things on the board to teach them things. But I was praying,
which were pretty impressive drawings, by the way. You minimize them. I was impressed.
I'm not an artist, but thank you. So, but this stuff just getting heavier and heavier, and I was praying, and I'm like, Lord, what am I supposed to do with this? Because I had this job, but this was going heavier and heavier, and I'm like, okay, God, I have these long walks where I'm just talking to God about this stuff and telling him, if you want me to do this, you're gonna have to open the doors so that can happen, because this is just really crazy. And I remember one day I was just sitting on my bed and I don't even know what I was doing, and this thought popped in my head, well, you should write a homeschool curriculum. And no joke, I kicked it out ASAP, because teaching my own kids the Bible, that's one thing, but writing a curriculum is a lot of work, and marketing a curriculum is a lot of work. And so I was like, nope, just kick it out. And then 6 months later, I hear from Nicole. So here comes this giant door, and God's like, here you go. You told me I would have to open the doors, and he did.
Ah, it really is pretty remarkable.
Out of nowhere.
And I was feeling, I have an apologetics background, but I don't have a strong Bible background, and I don't know anything about curriculum development. And so I'm talking with Amber, and I'm just being drawn in by her passion, and I sensed God was up to something in our conversation. It was not until later that I discovered she had a master's in curriculum design. That was like, that just about knocked me off my feet, because I mean, talk about a God wink,
Yeah.
So the way he brought us together was just such a beautiful answer to prayer, I think, in some of the things we were both longing for. So you then, Mike, were just really supportive of just turning us loose and supporting whatever we wanted to try. And we sent you a massive Google Doc of our first curriculum course, which was like a book. But that was our first course, was Teach Us to Pray. And really inspired by Tim Mackey's spiritual symmetry sermons that I stumbled on. I was playing with the idea, and I felt like this was really a God thing too, of the Jesus Creed, Scott McKnight's book, and really understanding how the Old Testament and the New Testament are hinged together by the Jesus Creed. And again, BibleProject was, pardon?
Which is, love the Lord your God.
Yes, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and all your strength. Oh, Amber, always the teacher. I love it. But really wanting to highlight the way I think BibleProject also does such a good job at tying the Old Testament and the New Testament together, to see that truly the whole Bible leads to Jesus. And I think a lot of that has gotten lost in our churches. And so even seeing the prayer of Shema and the way that shows up in the New Testament, just starting to make those connections for people, I was really excited to do that. So that was Teach Us to Pray, was our first course. Wow. And we finished it. Gosh, what year was that? 2021? I
think so.
Sounds about right.
That's crazy. So then the question became, where do we put it? There's so many ways to engage with the curriculum, and especially when it's video based, like BibleProject resources are. How do we help people actually engage the curriculum? And so that was where learn.bible was being developed right along the same time that this was happening. And we thought, oh, maybe that's where we should put it. So maybe you could tell people a little bit about what learn.bible is.
Sure.
And that's currently the place that our curriculum is housed. So yeah.
I mean, one big thing that came up when we were initially discussing all of this, I'm a very thin rule book, strong culture kind of guy. And so there wasn't a lot.
Say more about that.
Well, I think that if you create a really clear vision and strong culture around what it is you're trying to do, values driven, et cetera, you don't need a big rule book. You can go, there's a couple things that maybe make sense. One is that it's always going to be free. That was a big point for us, is that we wanted to not just to disrupt the homeschool kind of curriculum world, but just that there's a lot of people out there, that can't afford it, that want good curriculum, but good curriculum often costs money because it costs money to make it. And it does cost us money to make it. It costs us a lot of money to make it. Those videos are not cheap, but they've been paid for by incredible patrons from around the world that allow us just to keep giving them away. And so one big value statement was we wanted to make it for free. And that was, huge when we were having those initial discussions, is like, let's just put something out there that, that people can find and everything else. And that was also part of the birth around the whole learn.bible thing, is that initially when we were starting to find people like you to, lots of churches and organizations create curriculum. We've got another one with Alpha that's this really neat, like after Alpha program that's using our content. So we often, instead of just building it ourselves, we find talented people like yourself and others to go, we've got some resources that I think are good. And if you want to use them inside of your context, like, we can help you do that. And you can use them for free as long as you give them away for free. And we are coming up against this thing of, where do people house it, and how does it? There are a lot of different LMSs, learning management systems out there. Most of them are either archaic, or they're kind of clunky, or they're not pretty. They're not design forward. They're more back end forward.
I agree.
Yeah. They're confusing on the back end, so that if I've got some, mom in Texas that, hasn't built websites like somebody, they can they couldn't use a lot of those LMSs. Like, you have to almost get a degree in how to understand how to build those things.
How to code and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So we wanted to build something that was almost like Squarespace for LMSs, where it's white labeled. So any organization or church or nonprofit could have their own brand be represented versus the LMS brand. That it could be super easy to use on the back end, meaning, like, if you know how to turn a computer on, for the most part, you can at least get a base level curriculum. You guys have gone the extra level, and it's just beautiful. But then there's those capabilities too, where you can actually add in a lot of things. And so we try to balance that. And we developed it over a few years of actually putting developers on it to go, let's build something that we can give away, again, to churches, nonprofits, organizations, to build curriculum using our materials or others, that would be free, so they can't charge for it. And then is kind of that kingdom mindset of, like, let's just put it out there. Like, everybody can use it. Everybody, so if you've got a small church in Iowa that doesn't have a curriculum pastor who's developing this stuff, they could go into learn.bible and find, here's some small group curriculum, here's a homeschool curriculum, here's a Sunday school curriculum, here, whatever it could look like. And so that was the infancy. That was just me talking to a lot of churches, going, what's the pain points, what do you need? And this was one thing that kept coming up, is like, we want to create curriculum, we just don't know where to put it. And then it's a little scary to put it out to the church, because then every single user has to pay, or the church has to pay for every user. And so the price starts going. So yeah, we decided, well, let's just see if we can build something. And we did. Thankfully, we were building something called Classroom alongside of it as well, which is an online free seminary level classes that Tim and others teach. And we were able to kind of use that and piggyback off some of that to go, let's hijack some of these things and just make learn. And that's how it started. And then since then, it's got its own ecosystem and everything else. But
yeah, you actually reminded me, ours started on the Classroom platform first.
Yeah, that was our initial learn.bible platform, as we just thought, we're already spending money building this, why don't we just take it? But it got a life of its own and kind of became its own thing as well. So
and it's been fun working with the learn.bible team too, of just sort of getting to be a part of that process of, like, hey, could you add this? This would be super helpful. And I can't say enough about how accommodating they've been to, again, that value of listening. And, this would really help us if we could have this feature. And they were so quick to do whatever they could to accommodate that. That was amazing. That made it very fun to, like, play around with. And again, collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. When you guys were so easy, I mean, this isn't probably in your roadmap to talk about today, but it was very easy to work with both of you, because you also were so deeply immersed in the BibleProject content. So it's not like I had to have a conversation with you, Nicole, and convince you that I think we've got some stuff that could be helpful with kids.
Yeah.
Same thing with Amber. Like both of you were so deeply connected to the content that it made it very easy for us to kind of go, great, like let's figure out how to make this work. Even with the things you're talking about when it comes to the Old Testament and the New Testament, like, a lot of people are like, why is the Old Testament important? My whole thing is that I don't think you can actually understand the New Testament without the Old Testament. Like it just doesn't even, like it doesn't make, it's just an entirely different experience. And so it's less about elevating the Old Testament. And for me, almost going like, you just, it's like you can't watch episode, the seventh movie in the Harry Potter series without the first and know anything about the characters. Like you just don't understand. And so, but we often do that. And then we miss so much of the just insanity and just the beauty and the magic and all of that it is. So that's what I loved about you guys too, is that was a huge value for you. Even with I think a lot of times with young people, we almost like not just dumb it down, but we just start taking out stuff, or we start taking out stories.
Yes.
And you were so good at going like, listen, no, like this is the story. This is how we're going to tell it, and we're going to figure it out. So
it reminds me, I have to put my nerd hat on here because Lewis talks about how he's pretty biting with this comment, but he talks about non-literary readers and how they just are looking for the event. They just want to know what happens next. And versus a literary reader who appreciates myth and how myth works on us and how story works on us, is content to immerse themselves in the atmosphere. I'm paraphrasing him now, but the atmosphere of the whole story. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. Like we just want to jump to the event, the big event of the New Testament and all the things, but you can't even understand it if you don't immerse yourself in the whole story, I think is what I'm hearing you say. And it's so easy of you to say. I love it.
I mean, it's just, the reality is that the Bible is a narrative. It's story. It is a story. It is a book of story. And we in the West, and the New Testament actually is a little bit like this because it's been Greekified. I mean, it is a bunch of, even though they're like Hebrews, they're a bunch of Greek living in like a very Greek system. So they're writing even more in that type of way. But even more so, we are so facts equals truth versus truth equals truth. And facts can support those things. But when it comes to narrative and story, facts aren't actually that important to the story as much. But we treat the Bible like we're looking for facts a lot of times, and we're missing, so much of the actual, like what's the truth? Because truth to me is what we're looking for, and not necessarily facts. And we've often said that. And so to be able to stir in and bring in the Old Testament and understand the Torah and the prophets and et cetera, and realize that these are people of story. These would have been oral things that would have been told over and over again. And I'm not saying they're not true. There is facts in there as well.
Yeah.
But sometimes we spend too much time on like the facts and get really excited. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, but sometimes we get a little excited about the facts and not enough about what's going on here. Why did this writer weave together these specific things and stories and highlight certain things that make us think about, hyperlink back to Moses or back to David, et cetera. And so anyways, I could geek out about it.
We could talk about this all day. Like, what do the facts mean? We never get to asking the question of what the facts mean.
Right.
There's so much more to the story. Yeah, Amber.
And that's part of what inspires us so much, because it's this truth embedded in story that when we can live into the story, that story begins to work on us and shape us. And when we enter into the same story that Jesus was so immersed in, which is the story of the Hebrew Scriptures, it shows us what it means to follow him in richer ways. And so much about OneStory is we find ourselves caught up in OneStory. We find ourselves caught up in these smaller stories, in these stories of, how am I going to get all my work done by tomorrow? I mean, these little things like that we lose this overall context that this is a story about how God is bringing heaven to earth and partnering with humans to do it.
Right.
And that Jesus is the ultimate human partner, and that in him we get to partner with God. And so much about the heart behind OneStory is how do we help kids just enter into the story in a way that's life-shaping.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and so now we just got into the birth of OneStory because it went from a single curriculum project to really immersing ourselves in these ideas and recognizing that we have a passion for everything that you just said, Amber. And how do we help people experience the Bible this way in these unique contexts? And so I realized Amber had a whole lot more in her of what she had been dreaming up. We wrote a second course, and we have more in our brains of other ideas of courses that could come. But the beauty of learn.bible was then BibleProject also puts courses on learn.bible that people can adapt. So you don't even have to start from scratch. And that's when like our brains exploded, because we were like, oh my gosh, there's so many things we can do now. So we would take a BibleProject course, and Amber helped develop some family guides for it. And hey, parents, you can go through this awesome BibleProject course, and now you can download this family guide to turn around and teach it to your kids, the thing that you just learned. So again, the collaboration there of being able to leverage of what BibleProject is doing and then just translate it to our context. You made it so easy to do that. And we have had so much fun just adapting things and experimenting and trying some things. So I don't know, Amber, talk about just for a few minutes all the things that are on there now.
Oh, that's been a lot of fun, because a heart behind this is, as we learn things, turn around, teach it to our kids, so that it really impacts, it's multi-generational. So let's remember what this story is, because it seems like we're in such a confusing time of history that it's easy to lose track of what the story is. It gets sidetracked by these things going on around us. Yeah. And so we have homeschool curriculum on there, a few courses of homeschool curriculum, but then BibleProject has written Intro to the Bible, a course on understanding the biblical narrative, Jonah. There's more courses I haven't even touched yet. So we've written family guides for all of those, because not every family is a homeschool family. And we want to serve families who want to explore the Bible with their kids and practice the way of Jesus. And so then we've also been able to turn some of our courses into personal Bible studies, so that if a parent wants to go through the material first on their own and really let it sink in, that they can do that before teaching it to their kids.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah. So that's what we've been up to. I think we told the story of OneStory. I think that's the story. And truly, as Amber and I were thinking through this, I know I've said it so many times, but it really does come back to collaboration. I think our heart and why OneStory matters to us so much is because it is the unifier. I think we were made to live in OneStory together and to build the kingdom in community. Yeah. And you have such a beautiful heart for that, and BibleProject does, even starting with that value of free. It's just this generous, come and see these beautiful things, come and see the beauty of the Bible, come and see what we're up to. And I think we just wanted to follow in your footsteps with that and have a generous, collaborative, come and see approach of what we're doing. So we hope that is what we get to continue to do.
Well, I really hope so too. And I don't know who this is going out to, but I will say, similar to BibleProject, and I know OneStory operates in this way too. Like, it is free, but it does cost money,
Yes.
So we've been so grateful that people have supported the work that we've been doing. And we used some of those funds to kind of help get this going. But if these resources are like helpful to you, and you've got parents and everything else, I'm just saying this to whoever is going to listen to this. If it just support OneStory. Like, I mean, I am so behind what you guys are doing. We're friends for life on this whole project. I'm glad we got to kind of kickstart it up. But similar to Bible Project, like these things take a lot of time. Like you guys know how much
Yes.
time these curriculums take, so much time, and they're not just like written over a weekend. They're so thoughtfully put together and edited and re-edited and edited like it's wild because I've seen from the back end just how much time and effort it takes the two of you to do this. And so just in the spirit of collaboration, if you find these helpful, figure out how to support and build more of these because they're free, they're going to be evergreen. They're out there, it's just things are made. It's like they're out there for as long as, we say for our videos, we hope like as long as people watch videos, they're going to be available for free because they've already been paid for. And so now future videos haven't been paid for yet, and that's why we continue to have, patrons and people. And I think future content and curriculum for kids has not been paid for yet or made. And so, yeah, I just encourage people get involved, be a part of it, be a part of the crew, and it's an awesome project to be a part of.
Thank you.
Lots more ideas.
Yeah, we have lots more ideas.
Yeah, I believe it.
Amber is an idea generating machine. She is, I love it. She's just, her brain's just always going. And then I'm the one that kind of goes, okay, how do we do it? How do we do it?
What's cool is like ideas are hard to fund, but once you have seen what can be done, that was the same thing. Like we produced our first, 5 videos through some friends, and just a handful of people that we made the first few videos. We didn't put it out there as like a crowd, but once we put those out and kind of said, hey, here's what we're thinking of doing, as fast or as slow as the crowd wants to allow this to happen. If you like these, like jump on board, join the Bible Project. And I think the same thing could be said for OneStory. Like just join OneStory. If these, the beautiful thing is that people can see what can be done and that you actually can execute the idea. Lots of people have ideas and most people can't execute those ideas. You two are people that not only have thought of the idea, but have figured out how to make it happen and have done a ton of work to do that. And so just affirm both of you in that for sure.
Thank you. And thanks for helping us make it happen. We appreciate it. Well, anything else that I think we're just really excited about learn.bible. So if there's just a few things that you can say to let people know where to find it and kind of what's going on with it right now.
It's in a beta. So learn.bible. It's as easy as that. It's learn.bible. So it's a .bible domain. And you can go on there and find, OneStory and any of the Bible Project curriculum. It's in beta right now. So we've got about 50-ish plus organizations that are using it and kind of refining it and building stuff on there. And these things, because it's the tech world, it takes a while. So I don't know how long it's going to be in beta until we feel, it's ready to go into the next stage. We're also potentially looking at giving it away as well to another organization that would use it for free. Like we're just very open source with it. We didn't want to build it and just have it be, something that's sat on a shelf. And so we're trying to figure out the best way to steward this thing that we've built. And that could mean keeping it and continuing to build it out. It could mean handing it off to somebody who could do a much better job of us once it's been built. So we don't know. But it's available and it's free and it's not going away. And so that's the thing. And you can sign up on the website if you're a organization or church to know when the next stage is going to happen. And so feel free to put your name, email address, organization in there, and you'll get an email from one of us for sure. But definitely you can find OneStory resources on there, and they're awesome. They're beautiful.
Woohoo!
So.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Well, that's all I have on my conversation map. I don't know, Amber, if you want to add anything or any final thoughts, but
it's an awesome road, awesome journey, lots of surprises along the way. But it's been a fun adventure.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, Mike.
Yeah, thank you too so much. It's been great.
Awesome. Bye.